Good evening and welcome to Comcast Community Concern. I'm your host, Ben Hasan. My guest this evening are District 2 Commissioner to my far left, Corey Johnson, newly elected, and to my left here is our District 4 Commissioner Alvin Mason. Both of them will be sworn in early January. Commissioners, welcome to Comcast Community Concern.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We just really wanted to invite, we know we have a new commissioner, District 6, Joe Jackson, but actually we wanted to speak to these two gentlemen because they were in a runoff. And being in a runoff, they were successful. Corey Johnson in defeating Freddie Handy and Alvin Mason in defeating Commissioner Bernard Hopper. So we wanted to speak to them in reference to about the runoff and what is their outlook for this city in the future. Corey, have you gotten any rest just yet?
I'm getting there. I think it's going to take some time, but for the most part of it, I think I've got a great deal of rest. A ton of phone calls along with it, but you know, that comes along with the territory. You know, the first 2 or 3 weeks you're going to get those, but I think by the time we take office, I'll be rested well enough to perform.
Okay. Well, Corey, I just want to make mention about a year ago, I think around November of last year, yourself and we were down to a meeting at the boathouse. Right. I think the DBE department was putting that meeting on, and you formally introduced yourself to me and said, Ben, I'm familiar with you. I was raised in Allen Home down the street from your business. Right. I've been knowing you for a long time. As I begin to look at you, I begin to get some familiarity with your face. But at the same time, you said to me that I plan to run for commissioner, and I attempted to discourage you. Do you remember that?
That's right. That's correct.
And at that time, I knew you. I felt your heart was in the right place. I said, but it's going to take a lot for this to happen. But the truth be told, since that time, I just watched you grow and mature as a young man and prepare yourself for this task. And at the end of the day, you were successful. So once again, I want to extend my congratulations. And guess what? I'm glad you didn't take my advice.
Well, I appreciate it.
Mr. Mason, about yourself, you have been running for the last 2 years.
Yes.
Have you gotten any rest just yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't gotten any rest whatsoever. I'm hoping to get some this weekend. My wife and I have a little trip planned for us to relax this weekend and then come back and get ready to hit the ground running. We've got a lot of issues that we need to look at for this district and for this city as a whole, and so we're prepared to do that.
Yeah. What keeps you that engaged in the process for 2 years? You ran last year, you was not successful, you never stopped running, and this year you were successful. I mean, what kind of drive, what kind of motivation, or what was the motivating factor to keep your head in the game for the last 2 years?
Well, the motivating factor for me is that first we've got to see a different Augusta tomorrow than what we see today. And so if we don't step up today, the results that we see tomorrow will be the same results that we're getting today. So as a soldier, what I understand is mission accomplishment after my 20 years of being in the military. And so I didn't accomplish the mission last year. And so that drove me to continue on because as soldiers, we understand that we have to accomplish the mission. And the people in the district really gave me the boost that I needed to continue going because even though I was unsuccessful last year, they kept saying, hey, we need you in there. We need your thought processes. We need your ideals. We need a younger mentality. So they really kept me motivated and kept me going.
Okay. Corey, yourself, you're talking about actually this year when you ran, it was a total of 6 candidates in that race. Right. Even though you had made a conscious decision to run for that seat, did you anticipate 6 of you all running for that seat?
No, actually, I had a talk with Mike Myers was one of the candidates, actually in February, and he tried to somewhat talk me out of it, but I told him, I said, no, Mike, I said, my mind was pretty much made up. It wasn't something that I just came about. I said, but I prayed about it, you know, and I felt like God was utilizing me, his youth, to come in and do some things, step up to the plate, you know, and do some of the things that our seniors been put in place to do. And so I didn't waver with my decision until April, and then I decided to back out because I had a new business, so much stuff going on that I felt that if, you know, I wanted to be successful at my business, I may not, you know, need to consider running right now. So I did take about 3 to 4 months to reconsider. But however, one of the candidates that was going to run could not run because she was out of the district. So therefore, I was put in a position where, you know, it was another signal from God saying, this is your race to run. It's your race to win it if you want it. And so I actually rekindled the thought and talked with my wife and came up with the decision to go through with it. And so it's been straightforward ever since.
Well, did you, as you begin to run, did you anticipate it was going to be the kind of task and the type of work ethic you was going to need? Did you anticipate it was going to take all of that to make this happen?
No, actually I didn't. I mean, getting into a campaign, you never know what you're going to get into, especially if it's your first time. No matter how much, you know, people might tell you it's a lot of work, but it was extremely a lot of work. But the thing about it, you got to have a good staff. Somebody, and I know Alvin can attest to that, you got to have people that believe in the same things you believe in and want this just as bad as you do. And if you can get blessed enough to have those kind of people in your camp, you'll be successful. And that's what happened. We didn't have a large staff, but it was very effective. We was everywhere. You know, we spread ourselves thin, and we made it possible. And so at the end of the day, you know, people got an opportunity to hear me and know what I stood for. And that was the difference. Out of all 5 candidates, that was the difference between me and them. So in the end, we were successful, and I got to take my hat off to my staff, you know, because they done a terrific job. It was times I couldn't be there, but they was there, and they represented me very well.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is really in a very real way that even I can tell you how difficult task it is to run a campaign, you cannot really comprehend it until you're in the hot seat yourself.
Exactly. I mean, it's extremely a lot of work. I was much better and much more successful in the runoff because I was familiar with what we needed to do. So I was able to take it up a notch and succeed a little bit more rapidly than we did the first time. So that was the difference. I guess once you get the experience, you can do better the next go around. But coming out the door, man, it was rough. It was rough.
Mr. Mason, what about in terms of people that as you start your campaign, whether it was last year or this year, to the point that people who you thought would be supportive of you, that were possibly, that disappointed you, and people who would not be, you didn't think would be was supportive. Did you have any of that?
I did have some of that, but we tried not to really focus on that. Just for instance, like last year, our campaign staff was double last year in terms of size was this year, but we were...
What did you attribute that to? Is there anything you attributed that to?
Well, I believe that because I was unsuccessful last year, some of the folks that participated in my campaign went to the other side. Okay. And so, you know, sometimes that happens in politics, but it was a blessing for us because we actually did more with less this year. And so we were able to accomplish a great deal more than what we were able to accomplish last year. And not only that, we had some instances where there was some letters and some phone calls made against us this year by, you know, pretty prominent folks. But none of that had the type of effect that it was intended to have because we have some very, very, I would attribute it to very, very informed constituents.
You seem to have a problem that people have been hearing over the years in terms of looking for a job. People say, man, I would look for a job, I need to work. Many people tell you I'm overqualified. So when people was looking at you and speaking about you, people was never questioning your qualification to this job. They just thought that you were going to do it too well, that you were going to make some people displeased for doing your job too well. That was a concern, a legitimate concern in people's mind in reference to you. Did you hear that? Might have been said a little different way, but I guess you know what I'm saying.
I absolutely did hear that, but I couldn't get caught up in that because I knew for the skill sets that I brought to the table, it would be beneficial for the community as a whole versus small interest groups or special interest groups. So I had to look beyond what was being said, and there wasn't nothing negative said in terms of my qualifications.
Let me ask you this then. Since you brought small interest group, for the record, are we talking about one side aisle, both sides, black and white, and other? What are we talking about, special interest group?
Well, there are special interest groups on the black side, and there's special interest groups on the white side as well. And that's important for folks to understand. It doesn't just go to one side or the other, but there's special interest groups in terms of what they want to see happen within their community or within the city that falls down. There's no racial barrier to that. It falls down either side. And so they're there on both sides of the house.
Corey, in terms of you getting out and going into the runoff, let's talk about the runoff here. And going into the runoff was some of the things that you were to experience. Number one, the first thing that hit you all in the face the very next day was the endorsements.
Right.
The endorsement that was not favorable to you, that were favorable to Mr. Mason, we would say on the face of it. Right. On the face of it. And that was the mayor endorsing your opponent. Right. How did you feel, and how did you hear about it first, and how did you feel once? Can you go back to that moment in time?
Yeah, actually, when I got the phone call that it was taking place, I was shocked because I have never heard or seen anything like that ever happening publicly in the history. You might have had a mayor that come out and send help or help a candidate, but he never came out and done it, via television or radio. And so I knew then that it could make our task a little bit more difficult. But then I also looked at the bright side of it. I said, well, it could help us in the long run. I said because people can see that not only will they're educated enough to make their own decision, excuse me, but in terms, they don't need individuals to come out and say, of that magnitude to say, well, this is who you should vote for. So I looked at it, I looked at the pros and cons of it, but I didn't waver with it. not one bit. I just knew that we was going to have to work extremely hard to get our message across and let people know that I was the best candidate for the job, and that they wanted somebody that would not compromise principle for power. And a lot of things that I believed in. I just had to really push that issue throughout the runoff, and so I didn't let it discourage me. For one, I would say probably a couple of days I got discouraged, but my team picked me up, and they said, come on, you got to get to the finish line, and you're there. I had people to call me and encourage me that it's your race to win, and if you want it, just stay steadfast at it, and I did, and so we came out.
Okay, great. We'll be right back. We're going to take a commercial break.
For quick and friendly service, come to Quickway Florists. Call our professional staff to inquire about beautiful fresh cut arrangements, seasonal bouquets, centerpieces, and more. Let us help customize your funeral designs. Or stop by and purchase one of our pre-arranged bouquets. For all of your floral needs, call Quickway Florists, flowers for all occasions, located at 1335 Druid Park Avenue in Augusta. Quickway Florists. Do you need your computer repaired or your office network maintained? Call the certified experts at 4T's Computers. They have the largest staff of certified technicians in the CSRA, with hundreds of computers repaired monthly and multiple maintenance contracts with small businesses and organizations. All work is guaranteed, and our motto is, do it right the first time. We have the largest selection of refurbished computers in the area. 4T's has 2 locations to serve you, 592 Bobby Jones Expressway across from Home Depot, and Windsor Plaza next to the post office on Peach Orchard Road.
Welcome back. You're watching Comcast Community Concern. Once again, I'm your host, Ben Hasan. Guests is Mr. Corey Johnson and Mr. Alvin Mason for District 2 and District 4 newly elected commissioners. Corey, we were just speaking about the endorsement of the mayor. In terms of support, did you lose support, you feel, as a result of his endorsement, or did you gain support? You don't have to name sources or anything like that, but did that happen in your campaign that you can vividly see, or you really don't know?
Well, we did pick up some support. I mean, they didn't come out publicly and announce it, but they came out, and they did talk to me, and they said they was going to do what they needed to do behind the scenes, and that was a good deal because people saw that I was the better candidate. Those people didn't. They came out and they voiced it to me, and that was a good thing. And these people had a lot of influences in the community, and throughout the city. And that was a good deal because I didn't feel like I was on the block by myself. I saw that people knew that I was out there and they wanted to come and help as much as they could. So we did pick up, I would say, probably a great deal of support under the table, and that was okay. As long as we got it, that was the main thing.
Have you spoken with the mayor? The mayor spoken with you since your election?
Yes, I have. I spoke with them actually today after the election. We spoke, and then we spoke again at the commission meeting. And we definitely are talking about getting together and going to have lunch and sitting down and just dialoguing a little bit, getting to know one another, and looking at what we can do together to move the city forward.
Okay. Mr. Mason, with yourself, you received the endorsement in support of the mayor. At the time, how did you think about it, and what impact do you think, if any, it had on your campaign?
Well, believe it or not, I heard about it from a news cameraman that had called, or newscaster that had called and told me, and I asked him, did you get that on tape? Because I wanted to be sure that of what he was saying, and so it kind of shocked me, but at the same time, basically what he had said in reference to me, that we did have a good working relationship together, and I have had it for the past couple of years in terms of the dialogue that we've had about what's going on in the city. But at the same time, what I tried to express to the people who had an issue with that is that the mayor does not have a vote. The people of the district will make that decision. And to be honest with you, I think that it probably hurt more so than helped in terms of my case, because I think that I probably would have won by a larger margin had the endorsement of the mayor not come. That's my opinion. I don't have any way of knowing that for sure, but that certainly is my opinion.
Okay. What about in terms of support? Do you think you picked up support as a result? We're talking about into the runoff now. I know what you said, your campaign, as you started on running this year, your staff was twice as small as it was last year. But in terms of the runoff, did you gain support from other sources as a result of that endorsement, or did you lose support? I know what you said about at the poll itself. You think, you had to struggle a little harder than you would have liked to. But in terms of, did anybody able to say, okay, I'm going to work with you, or somebody said, well, I can't work with you as a result of?
Well, it was a little bit of both. And I think it kind of balanced itself out because, again, we started having folks writing letters and making phone calls against us, which didn't happen prior to. but the endorsement. But then again, you know, we also had folks to come out and say, hey, this is what we need to do to help you out. And that happened both pro and con. So I think it kind of balanced itself out in the end. But again, the thing that I just wanted to bring up, that Corey had spoke about that privately. We had a private conversation, and regardless to what the mayor said in terms of towards me or towards Corey, we both decided that we're going to run our race. And we're going to put our best foot forward and let the people decide. And I think as you see us sitting here today, the people made their decisions on who they wanted to see as their new commissioners.
You have yourself, you two gentlemen here, as well as Joe Jackson. All three of you are brand new to the commission. Have you all spoken to one another?
Yes, actually I had the opportunity to speak with Joe several times. I called him when he won in his race, and we talked about getting together, you know, after the runoff and getting lunch. And actually I called on him Monday. Had a little incident with my car ignition. You know, he's a locksmith, and it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I called him up, and he came right on out, man, pulled it out, dissected it, put it back together, and put it in. And so, and then I called him yesterday, and we talked. And I think we're going to be very, very good together. People are going to see a change. I know there's only 3 candidates that's taking place new in that commission, but people are going to see a difference in that commission board. They're going to see people that can dialogue and get along all the way across the board. And that's the difference that me and Alvin and Joe are going to bring to the table with this new commission. So I look forward to it. Like I said before, we still set a date to get together. And actually, we're going to try to get with Al and see when his schedule is clear, and all of us get together and talk.
Have you spoken with Joe as well?
Yes, I have spoken with Joe on several occasions, and we intend to speak again. And again, I believe that we will get together and have lunch, the 3 of us, and as well as perhaps the mayor. And of course, Corey and I have had several conversations since the runoff and during the runoff and even before the runoff. And so we established a relationship among ourselves as we were going down this campaign trail because we fully understood what this community needed to see out of its candidates. And obviously, the people thought enough of the 2 of us, as well as Joe, to put us in this position that we're in today. Because
the question becomes pretty much, I remember when Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Cheeks were successful coming on at the same time.
Right.
They formed a relationship so much so they were called twin brothers.
Right.
They had an inseparable relationship for about 5.5 years. I mean, they got a lot of things accomplished. And there was a lot of role playing that going on to make things happen, but they did happen. So what I'm hearing today is that you all are going to try to do the same things with Joe Jackson included to move this community forward, because the community needs that more so than anything else.
That's correct.
That's okay. Correct. What are some of the things that that you all like to accomplish in the first 100 days? Either one of you can start with that.
Well, for me, I just would like to see, especially in the first 100 days, the perception of this commission changed. In terms of from a dysfunctional government to a government that is more team-oriented, that has the citizens of the city in mind when we're making our decisions. And again, to kind of push the special interest groups to the side somewhat and deal with the real issues of governing this city versus micromanaging its employees. And so if we begin to work on that, in my opinion, I think those other types of things will come in terms of economic development, in terms of security within our city and those types of things, because we have to change the way that we're looked at in the perception of this government so that we can see the benefits and the economic benefits that we need to see for the city as a whole.
Anything you want to say on that?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Alvin just said. I also would like to see some things pretty much set in stone with Hyde Park and their issue with the community there. And so we'll know what route we're going to be traveling with them. And so, therefore, in the first 100 days, we know where we're going to be going with that. The people can kind of know, okay, well, this is going to happen within the next 2 to 3 months. And then they can kind of make preparation for it. So these are some of the things that I'd like to see done. But first and foremost, we got to get the commission attitude changed. We got to make sure they understand that we're here to do a job for the city, not for our personal interests, but to make sure that we represent the constituents of this community and throughout the city of Augusta. And we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
Okay. We'll be right back. We're going to take a commercial break.
For more than 8 years, Easy Ride of Augusta has been providing affordable and convenient service to the Atlanta airport. A fleet of 5 vans and 8 experienced drivers provide you with a reliable and worry-free ride. With 34 trips every week, it's easy to book the trip that fits your schedule. Join the thousands of satisfied customers. Visit EasyRideOfAugusta.com or call 706-860-4900 to reserve your next trip to the Atlanta airport.
Do you need your computer repaired or your office network maintained? Call the certified experts at 4T's Computers. They have the largest staff of certified technicians in the CSRA, with hundreds of computers repaired monthly and multiple maintenance contracts with small businesses and organizations. All work is guaranteed, and our motto is do it right the first time. We have the largest selection of refurbished computers in the area. 4T's has 2 locations to serve you, 592 Bobby Jones Expressway across from Home Depot and Windsor Plaza next to the post office on Peach Orchard Road. For quick and friendly service, come to Quickway Florists. Call our professional staff to inquire about beautiful fresh cut arrangements, seasonal bouquets, centerpieces, and let us help customize your funeral designs. Or stop by and purchase one of our pre-arranged bouquets. For all of your floral needs, call Quickway Florists, flowers for all occasions, located at 1335 Druid Park Avenue in Augusta. Quickway Florists.
Welcome back. You're watching Comcast Community Concern. I'm your host, Ben Hasan. My guest once again is Commissioner Alvin Mason and Commissioner Corey Johnson, who will be sworn in the early part of January. Commissioner Mason, let's talk about District 4, which is my district as well. What are some of the things that you immediately would like to happen in that district per se? I mean, have you looked at it and said whether it's getting citizens involved, whether some things that you think need to be put on the front burner in terms of some sense of development, or anything like that? Have you looked at it and seen what you would like to see happen immediately?
I have, but we've got to be careful when we're talking about governmental action. Many times working for the federal government for over 20 plus years, we understand that it doesn't happen right away. So some of the things that we can control is putting the right people in the right place with the right skills so that we can get the right results. And what I'm talking about as far as that goes is not only is this commission seat changing, and I'm now in that, but we want to also change the boards and authorities that the commissioner has the authority to appoint as well. So we want to put new forward-thinking people in place to help move this city forward, and that will help with our agenda as we try to bring things to the district. Now, having said that, security certainly out in District 4 is a paramount issue for me. It's a paramount issue for the citizens in District 4. And so we have to happen in terms of the gang violence, the burglaries, the crime, the robberies, and these types of things have been going on rampantly for the last 2 or 3 weeks in the district, and specifically Tobacco Road area. So we have to look at that and make sure that the sheriff has what he needs to have in order to do what he needs to do to help clean up the streets. And we've seen that happen with the Meadowbrook Clique is now pretty much out of business, but we have several other issues out there as well. But we have to bring some things to the table that are going to attract the interest of our young folks, to keep them off the streets, to deal with the hope issue, the evidence in the outcome, so that they can see a better tomorrow than what they see in Augusta today.
Okay. Yeah, it's ironic that you brought up the board appointment, because I think that's very important, because many times we have so many boards that you all are going to have an opportunity to make some appointments to. Right. And it seems to be a family and friend thing beyond you all, as though all these things are less important. And many times as you look across the boards, and I've been complaining about this myself on a personal level for about the last 2 years now, is that those boards does not necessarily represent people who necessarily have those skill sets. They have skill sets, surely, but don't necessarily match the boards that they're sitting on. And I'm just hoping that you two see fit to change that in your appointments. You can't control all of them, but at the same time, people that you put there can have some skill sets to be of use to this community. Do you see that as a problem, Corey? Or have you looked at the board appointments that you're going to be having in the future?
And I have saw some that I think that may have to be changed. But I want to evaluate all of them. You know, I want to look at everybody and see what kind of job they've been doing. Like I said before, I'm going to have to reach out to a lot of people, you know, and see what and who's going to be the best candidate to be, you know, placed in those positions. But you're right. We need people in place that's going to implement things. In other words, carry out the agenda that we represent. You know, if I represent making sure that I have programs and making sure that the trees and stuff is cut, we need to have people in place on the tree commission. We have people in place on the personnel committee. I mean, all these committees need to have people that's going to be an asset to what we represent, and that's why I need to look at everybody, look at the people that I want to, you know, place in these positions, look at the people that's already in the position, and see what kind of job they've been doing and whether or not they represent what I stand for in this as a commissioner.
So let me ask you about young people. Were you able to get young people involved in this campaign?
Oh,
not so much the campaign, but also to the polls.
Yes, I did. I would probably say we probably got at least 100 in the runoff that came out and voted, young folks, you know, that probably wouldn't have came out and voted otherwise. So it's showing that the city is moving forward. They're moving direction, and our youth are stepping up now, and they're taking responsibility for their actions and things that goes on in their community. And that means a lot, because that's what it's going to take to move this community forward. We need our youth to be involved. When they represent at least 35 or 40% of the people in this population of Augusta, then it's critical. It's very critical that we have the youth involved in what's going on. So I was at a Dowdy Community Center yesterday, and we got a gentleman over there that has been doing a real good job with implementing programs and getting the youth off the street there in Southside and putting them in basketball programs, football, whatever it is. And we need people just like that all the way across the district and throughout the city that'll put programs in place that'll keep the kids occupied. Because right now, the reason why they're getting in so much trouble because they're idle. They don't have anything to do. And we definitely need to implement programs that's going to keep them occupied, keep them off the streets, get their homework, or whatever needs to be done. We can do something about it.
Okay. Mason, will you be looking at people as you make a board appointments, or will you be assisting people? Because last time this community has a habit historically of inviting, of putting people in place who don't necessarily have the skill sets, number one, but at the same time, people who they don't have, in my mindset, great regard for. And they more so look up to them than they do to the business at hand. So will you be looking for people who have equal skill sets or surpass yours necessary to put in these board appointments, that you're not intimidated by their success?
Absolutely, because again, a vision has to be a shared vision, and my vision is a shared vision for the community. And one thing that we've done since we have been running for this position for 2 years, we've evaluated who's already on these boards. Now, we'll speak to them personally, but we've already done an evaluation process. In addition to that, when we replace, and if we replace those folks on the board, there's two criteria that I had. One, that they lived in the district, because I believe that the best people to articulate the needs of the district is someone who actually lives, sleeps, eats, drinks, plays in the district, so that they can be the best advocate for us. And two, there is a process by which they will go through an interview process with me and a couple of others as we decide and determine who has the best skills to go in these positions. We can't get caught up in positions or titles. We have to get caught up in people who are responsible and bring the skill sets to that position that will best enhance this community. So we're definitely looking at folks who are qualified. They can be much smarter than me. I don't have a problem with that, and many of them will be. But the bottom line is we need to get our district moving forward, and that will help our city move forward as a whole.
What is your game plan in terms of getting the community involved? As you know, here in the general election as well as in the runoff, District 2 actually voted out district. So what do we need to do here across the board in terms of getting people to believe in the trust and faith once again in your mind?
We have to lead by example. We have to talk the talk, and then we have to walk the walk. And I think what they'll see with the new set of commissioners that are coming in is that we'll talk it and then we'll walk it as well. So when they see that, they'll see the evidence and the outcome, the hope, and we'll try to get them involved. I'm committed to the young people. The largest block of registered voters in District 4 is 18 to 24. There's over 2,500. But on the flip side of that, they're the lowest in terms of the numbers that come out to actually vote. So that's telling you something there. You got over 2,500 block voters that are ready and available that can win any election, but they don't come out to vote. Only 200 and something came out to vote. So that's that's only 11%. So we got a big job ahead of us to get them involved in the process. And I think when they see the evidence that, hey, here's a guy coming straight from the ghettos of Lansing, Michigan, crime, drugs, and all that, the peer pressure that was there, but I too can even overcome my circumstances and my situation, and I rise above it. So I think that's a positive testimony for our young people to give them an option to come out and do something different than what they've done in the past.
What do you do for District 2 in terms of getting your people involved in the process? You've already said you got over 100 young people involved in the process in terms of coming out and actually casting a vote for you. How do you keep them engaged in this process for the future?
Well, get them involved simply by informing them, make them feel like they're a part of the movement. It worked in the past, and I think it'll work now. But if we don't make them feel like they're a part of something, then they're going to drop off. You know, just like anything else that you participate in. If you don't interact with it, then you start to lose interest in it. And I want to make sure we keep their interest at peak, because if we do that, then they're going to continue to look at the government, look at how to operate, look at what they can do to enhance it, or or make a difference in their community. And therefore, they're going to get involved and they're going to stay involved. And that's what we got to focus on right now, making sure we get their attention. And once we get it, we keep their attention, because they make a difference. And like I said before, if those 100 candidates when it came out, or voters when it came out and voted, then I may not have been sitting here today. So it shows me that they are interested. They want to make sure that they got people that they can relate to, that understand the issues. I'm talking from the bottom to the top. I have a son in high school, I'm married, I'm a homeowner, and I got a son in daycare. So I'm familiar with every aspect of what goes on in everyday life. And this is what people want, somebody that they can relate to understand what the average working person have to go through. And I think this is going to be the difference.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much for your time. You have been watching